Hi guys, how's everyone doing today? Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Zita, and on my channel I'll be sharing a variety of DIYs with you, such as thrift store makeovers, upcycles. I'll be doing some room makeovers and thrift flips for resale, some home decorating, and I'm also going to share some recipes with you guys every now and again. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button and also click that notification bell. That way YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. The more DIY friends we have, the better. And you can also follow me over on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and Etsy at OakWell Home. It's nice to be back, guys, after 2 weeks of not feeling well. So this past week I was able to work on some new projects. So in today's video I'm going to be sharing some spring thrift store makeovers for you guys. So let's get started. So today's first DIY, I'm going to be making over this. It's like a terracotta sack that I picked up at a thrift store. It has some leather tie around it there. So I'm going to be painting this white. What do you guys think? You think that was a good idea, or would you have left this the way it was? I'm going to be putting some lavender flowers in this and some other purple flowers. So I thought it would look better if it was painted white. It would show up those flowers better. So I'm just taking off that leather tie that was around the sack there, and then taking out the hanger. And now I'm doing my painting with my homemade chalk paint. And guys, if you don't have a homemade chalk paint recipe, I do have a video on that, so I'll post that in the description box for you guys, just in case you want to make your own if you run out of the brand name. And it can also save you a lot of money. I think it costs about $1 for a cup of homemade chalk paint. So right here, after I've painted a couple of coats on this terracotta sack, I'm wet distressing it because I did want some of that terracotta color to come through and to make it look a little more rustic. And I think that really brings out the beauty of the piece more with the distressing. So now I have some black leather cord that I'm going to wrap around the sack. It's had some, I think, brown on it before, but I think it's going to look nicer with the black. So I had some leather cord on hand here, so I just cut that to the size I wanted, just tied a little bow there around it, and that's what it looks like with that done. And now I'm going to put some more leather in the back just to make it match. So that's going to be for hanging on the wall. And once I have that done, I'm just going to cut my floral foam, and I'm going to stick that inside there just to make the floral that I'm going to put inside a little more stable. And I can kind of place it where I want, and it's going to stay there. So I have some lavender here and some other type of purple flower that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. So if you guys are looking for some florals, check out your local dollar stores. But I'm finding right now it's really hard to find floral at the dollar stores, especially here where I am. Like, are any of you guys having that same problem? Right here, guys, I'm just putting my clear finishing wax on, and I would normally do this before I put my florals in, but I had forgot, so I'm putting it on now as I remember. And this is going to seal your piece in. So what do you think of this piece, guys? Isn't it beautiful? I absolutely love this. This would be a beautiful Mother's Day gift, wouldn't it? Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this piece, and if you think I should have left it the way it was, or if you would have also painted it. For my next DIY, I have a thrifted frame here. Has this beautiful picture on it already. It says enjoy the day, with this bicycle with a basket full of flowers. So I love the picture. So I'm going to keep that. I'm just going to tape it off here around all corners. And once I have that all taped off, so I don't get any paint on there, I'm going to paint the frame. First, I'm going to paint it black, and I used a flat interior paint that I had on hand. And then after you put your first coat of black paint on, you're going to want to put a polyacrylic on there to seal in the black, so when you distress it back after you put your white on, you don't sand back or distress back to the wood. And I forgot to do that, but it all worked out. I went a little light on the sanding, and I distressed it back, and only the black showed through. So make sure you put your polyacrylic on after you put your black on, let that dry, and then put your white paint on. So here I'm putting my coat of black paint on, and I only used one coat. I let that dry, and then I put my homemade white chalk paint on, and I gave that I believe I put 3 coats of white chalk paint on there, so that black was really showing through. So yeah, once I had that done, I used a very fine, I think it was 220 grit sanding block, and I just sanded along the edges very lightly, because like I said, I didn't want it to go back to the wood color. And then once I finished using that sanding block, I took a wet rag and I started distressing it some more, and that really brought it back to the black. And I distressed it around the corners and the edges where you would get some natural wear and tear. Then I took that tape off, guys, and sealed in the piece with some clear finishing wax, and this piece was done. So once this is finished, let me know what you think in the comments, and if you would have painted the frame white and distressed it back to the black, or if you would have just left the frame as is and call it a day. For my next DIY, I had this box here that I've kind of made over in another video, but I didn't like the way the stencil turned out. I don't know, it looked a little messy for me. So I was keeping this for myself before, but now I'm going to sell it. So I'm going to redo it. And here I'm using a fusion paint, and the color is called Soapstone. This Fusion paint is a mineral paint, and it's an awesome paint. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. So I did like the gray color that was on there, so I gave it, you know, the same color because I did like that, but I'm going to kind of give it a dry brush after this color paint dries with a color called Rushmore by American Paint Company, and you'll see that coming up a little bit later. So I did sand that down a bit, and then I did the dry brushing. Before you do your dry brushing and after you've done your sanding, wipe it down with a dry cloth so you don't have any dust on there when you do your dry brushing. So here's that paint color. It's kind of looks like a beigey, almost like a beigey green color, I guess. So yeah, I just dip my chip brush in the paint and then rub it off on the paper there, and then kind of just brush it over wherever you want. And this is what it looks like. It's not completely dry here that I'm showing you, but yeah, so you can put as much or as little as you want on there when you're doing the dry brushing. So right here I'm using 2 stencils. I'm gonna put Fresh Flower Market on there again, same as before, but this is a different stencil. So I think the one I did before was from my cutting machine, but these stencils I had on hand, so I'm going to use these. I'm going to use the Market from one stencil and the Fresh Flower from the other stencil. So here I'm just measuring it out to make sure it's all centered up, and I'm going to tape that down so it doesn't move around all over the place. Now guys, you'll see me here after I put my first coat of paint on here. I am using a makeup sponge from the dollar store, but put a piece of tape above that so it doesn't go in those other letters above it. So that a little bit of that happened to me, so I had to get that white off. So you'll see me put some masking tape on after my first coat here. So I started out with the makeup brush, and then I tried the stencil brush, and I did a pouncing method up and down. So here, yeah, for my second coat, I'm putting the tape in place, which I should have done in the first place, so none of the white went outside into the other words. So do that before. So I'm just continue using the stencil brush. Now the other stencil that I put on here for the Fresh Flower, I did use the makeup sponge all the way through. I wanted to try the 2 different and see which one worked out the best. So this is the stencil that says Fresh Flowers. Now I'm not gonna need the S on there because it's gonna be Fresh Flower Market, so I won't need that S. So tape it off, guys, so you don't get any paint in there, and everything will work out better, and it'll save you a lot more time having to go back and fix your mistakes. So here again, I'm using my dollar store makeup sponge, putting it in the paint and then dabbing it off on the paper. Okay, so you don't have like a big load of paint on your sponge or your stencil brush. So always wipe some of it off. It's better to go light, and then instead of having to take a bunch off afterwards and it's going to get underneath your stencil. So that's what it looks like, and after that's done, I just kind of sand it down a little bit just to give it a little bit of distressing, make it tie in with the rest of the box the way it looks with all the dry brushing and stuff on there. Now I'm just wiping it down, and I'm going to put a clear finishing wax on there first, and then after I have my clear finishing wax on there, I decided I'm going to put some black finishing wax on there too, just to tie it in with the distress look that it has, and just to make it a little more rustic and a little more old looking. And guys, don't forget to remove the paper underneath your box after you do your sanding and before you put your wax on, because you don't want all that sanding dust to stick to the wax that you're putting on now. So that's very important if you're putting paper down for your sanding. So here I have some painted mason jars that I did a while ago, and I have the silver lids on those. And if you'd like to know how I do the painting for these, I'll put the video of how I do that in this description box. So I always put the Fusion Ultra Grip on the bottles before I paint them, just to make the paint stick nicer. And I'm using some beautiful purple hydrangeas in this arrangement in all of these mason jars, and I think the purple looks absolutely beautiful with the gray and the beige color on the box. And I had some styrofoam laying around, so I'm using my cutters there to cut the floral down shorter, and I just stuck that into styrofoam and worked out great. So if you don't have any floral foam, guys, you can always use some styrofoam if you have some of those laying around. What do you think of this beautiful project, guys? I think it's ready for resale, and I think it will sell. What do you think? Would you buy this beautiful Fresh Flower Market home decor box with these beautiful hydrangeas? Let me know in the comments what you think. For this next DIY, guys, I picked up this hot chocolate jug at a thrift store, and I always see lots of these at the thrift stores. So first I'm going to put some Fusion Ultra Grip on this just to make the paint stick better. So I put one coat of the Fusion Ultra Grip all around this and let it dry. So it's all dry here, and it will dry to like a clear. So once I have that done, I'm gonna put 3 coats of my homemade chalk paint on here. It needed the 3 coats to cover up that hot chocolate words. So that's after the first coat, and as you can see, you can still see the chocolate word on there. So I did put 3 coats on there, and after all 3 coats were on there and it was dry, I gave it a light sanding with this very fine sponge sanding. And once that was done, I wiped down the jug, and I have these Redesign Transfers here that I ordered from Amazon. And this is my first time trying this company's product, and these had 3 sheets in there, 3 beautiful sheets of beautiful flowers. So guys, if you haven't tried these, give them a try. If you have tried them, let me know in the comments what you think of these transfers. So here I'm just picking out what I want on this. I just put a simple pink flower on here, just cutting around there what I want to put on the jug. And once I have that done, I make another cut here just to line up the vines on the flowers. And once I have that done, I'm going to tape it in place so it doesn't move around. And then you're going to use the little scraper that comes in the package to burnish the transfers where you want them. So once you have it taped down, then you can pull off that top layer, or the underneath layer, I'm sorry, and then burnish it with the tool that comes in the package. Once I have the transfer burnished down, guys, I took my polyacrylic and I put that on top of the entire jug to seal everything in. Now this does look a little shiny at the end, so if you don't want that, you could put a wax on, a clear finishing wax. So now I'm putting some florals in some floral foam here. And I'm using some pink flowers and one single white flower, and this piece is done and it looks absolutely beautiful. I'm so happy with this. Let me know in the comments, guys, which one was your favorite today, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified of more videos like this one. I hope it gave you guys some inspirations for some of your spring DIYs. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.